Good morning, guys. I get a lot of questions about voodoo flossing, what it is, what it does, how it helps, and essentially what is it doing. And I never really have an easy or a simple answer for it. So I'm making this video today just to kind of elaborate a little bit more, go a little bit more in depth on what this is and what it does. So first and foremost, it has a few purposes. One is it restores the sliding surfaces to a joint or to a tissue. As well, it really helps reperfuse the tissue, so bring blood flow into the area. If it was restricted to start off, then it's not getting very good blood flow, so that compression and then the onset of blood coming back into the joint, into the tissue, is going to help restore some things. So the restoring sliding surfaces, what's going on there is, if you think, if I'm going to use my wrist flexors because it's easy, if the sliding surfaces, so by that I mean the skin, the fascia, underneath that is the muscles, if my muscles aren't sliding well under my skin, under the fascia, I'll tack down the skin and the fascia, and then I'll move my muscles through ranges of motion to help restore sliding surfaces. Okay? Instead of just doing that superficially on a foam roller and just getting one aspect of the tissue of the joint, I can use the Voodoo Floss, wrap my entire arm, wrap my entire hip, knee, whatever, and then go through full ranges of motion, squats, flexion, extension, and I can get either end, or sorry, the full circumference of the joint instead of just biasing one spot if I were on a lacrosse ball or a foam roller. Okay. On top of that, when you wrap it, when you have this compressed around a joint, around a tissue, it'll almost restrict the blood flow to some degree. So if you have a spot on your body or a tissue that isn't moving well, the sliding surfaces aren't working very well, it's not a very well perfused tissue, so it's not getting the most ideal blood flow that it could. There might be some background reasons as to why that is, like you could be coming off an injury or you could be nursing it, and that's another reason why you might not have good blood flow to the area, or why the sliding surfaces might not be working out very well. So upon taking this off, if you wrap a tissue and then you take this off, you get an onset of blood flow into the tissues, which is just going to help speed up recovery and essentially warm you up. It's going to be a good upregulator before you start squatting or doing exercise. Again, this you can wrap a joint, you can wrap a tissue with the Voodoo Floss. You'll restore the sliding surfaces and bring blood flow into the area. And luckily, it's not just a whole cardinal of movement, so you're just moving into one certain plane. You can wrap just above your knee, you can wrap your hip, and then you can do your first few warm-up sets of squats. So it's a lot more applicable to what you're trying to fix, instead of like, oh, I'm gonna work on my wrist flexors before I do pull-ups or front squats. It's a lot more functional. You can wrap your wrist, wrap your knee, and then work on the actual front squat, overhead squat, or going into the actual squat if you're wrapping your leg. So I hope that answers any questions about the Voodoo Floss. I can do another video later on about how to apply it and how to wrap it. If you guys have any more questions about the functions and what it's doing, feel free to ask. Love to answer you guys. Have a good one.